Hello, students. It's Mr. Weaver. I'm going to discuss Chapter 4 of Lord of the Flies. And oh my goodness, there's a lot going on here. And it's going to be really hard not to linger on some of these amazing quotes that are in here. But I'm just going to give a brief overview and the things that stand out to me as an experienced reader. First of all, in the first couple pages, we have the life of the little ones. And it's important that we understand these little ones and understand that these are real children. They're acting like children. They're building sandcastles. They cry, they whine. And that's just who they are. And then you have that juxtaposed with Maurice and Roger who come out of the forest. Now, Maurice and Roger are older, and they come up to some sandcastles and kick them, and a little bit gets in one of the kid's eyes, and he starts to cry. And Maurice, instead of actually apologizing, just kind of mumbles something and moves on. And that shows that because there's no authority to punish him or authority to tell him something's wrong, he doesn't have to admit that he's done something wrong. And that's something that's going to recur in this book. When you don't have to answer to an authority that you've done wrong, then you can get away with it. And that's a lot more things are going to be gotten away with in this chapter. Then we have Roger, who's kind of stalking little Johnny here, right? And we come to this interesting quote on page 62 in the middle, where it says, "Yet there was a space," remember, he's throwing stones that are around like a 6-foot diameter, I think it was, 6-yard diameter. So he threw to miss, but it says there was a space around Henry, perhaps 6 yards in diameter, into which he, that being Roger, dare not throw. Here, invisible yet strong, was the taboo of the old life. Round the squatting child was the protection of parents and school and policemen and the law. Roger's arm was conditioned by a civilization that knew nothing of him and was in ruins. There's a lot going on in that statement. We could linger there. Let's linger in class instead. But what we see here is that Roger is still, because of the conditioning of his old life, not willing to throw a rock and actually try to hit Johnny. That may change later in the book when these vestiges of the old life start to peel away and the real Roger comes out. Then they put paint on their faces, right? And it is not green and brown to blend in, like Jack says, for hunting. It's not for hunting. It is to liberate him, to liberate something inside of Jack. And we can talk about that in class. In fact, it says on page 64 at the top, behind which Jack hid, liberated from shame and self-consciousness. There's something about a mask that by putting this mask on, he's liberated from his shame. He's not ashamed now. Of what? Those are questions that we're going to have to ask, but we see that this is a very important moment in the book. Then they see a ship, and obviously that's big because they want to be rescued, and here's their opportunity, and it has been squandered because of the irresponsibility of the hunters. Then Ralph is beside himself with anger, as he should be, because someone let the fire go out, and we can imply that it was Jack, because Maurice and Roger left the fire because their turn was over and someone didn't keep it going. And we know that Jack is obsessed with hunting. Jack arrives triumphant with the pigs. They're singing this, or they're chanting, "Kill the pig, cut her throat, spill her blood." Here we see that blood imagery really coming to the fore. Then there is, on page 68 at the bottom, this fear in Simon, and it's subtle, but it's there. And Simon is kind of a barometer or a temperature gauge of what's going on. And when he gets afraid, that's a big deal. So pay attention to that at the bottom of page 68. Then on page 71, it talks about these two worlds colliding, the world of Jack and the world of Ralph. In fact, in the middle of the page, it says this: Jack stood up as he said this, the bloody knife in his hand. The two boys faced each other. There was the brilliant world of hunting, tactics, fierce exhilaration, skill. That's Jack's world. And there was the world of longing and baffled common sense. That would be Ralph and Piggy. All right. So, but there is this duality going on throughout the book, that these kind of two worlds colliding in Jack and Ralph. And here it becomes very stark and very serious. The glasses then break, which of course that's very symbolic because of what we know about the glasses. But they don't break all the way. Just like society hasn't totally broken down yet, the law isn't totally broken down. Rationality isn't totally broken down yet. And then Jack gives this manipulative apology, right? Just so, I apologize. I'm sorry about the fire. I mean, there, I apologize." And then all the boys are like, "Oh, he's being so noble." But Ralph sees right past this and sees that he's just manipulating because that's what Jack does. Simon then, okay, so they start eating their food, and Ralph starts eating voraciously like a wolf. And then at the top of page 74, Jack is doing this power trip over Piggy and basically saying, "Well, you don't get to eat because you didn't hunt." And Piggy falls right into this trap. And then out of nowhere, Simon just hands meat to Piggy. He does another generous thing, just like he did with the little ones, just like he was helping Ralph. He's like this amazing character that is so magnanimous, so generous, so beyond all these other boys, way beyond even Ralph in his generosity. And he gives it, and then Jack goes after him. He throws a piece of meat at his feet and said, "Eat, damn you." Like he starts cursing at him, right? That is interesting. Why is he doing that? And why is he doing that to Simon, who's this really generous guy? And then, as at the end of the chapter, Jack gets all excited about the kill because someone asks a question about it, and then Ralph just cuts him off and says, "All right, we're having another meeting, and we're having it now, even if it's at night." And they run down the mountain. Okay, and that's how the chapter ends. Now, what's the purpose of the chapter? There's so much we could talk about. We'll talk about it in class, not here. But I just want you to get a few things in your mind. Number one, here was this hope of the ship of rescue, and it's gone, right? Poof, like smoke. And that's very significant, obviously, because when you have hope and then it's gone, that can really affect your emotions, right? The thing that's liberated in Jack, remember, the title of the next chapter is called "Beast from the Water." So now the beast is kind of unleashed on the island. That's the way I look at it, anyway. So what is this beast? And we're going to start exploring that. The two worlds colliding. Big deal because it's very stark here. And then Simon and his character development. Why does he do what he does? Finally, some questions to consider. What do you do when someone's irresponsibility causes harm? Harm to the group, harm to an individual. And here we have the irresponsibility of the hunters who are not doing what they're supposed to do. They have one job, they didn't do it, and it really cost them. What do you do then? Where does authority come from? Why does Ralph have authority? Just because a bunch of kids raise their hands? Because of a conch shell? Because he looks good? Why doesn't Jack have the authority? Why not Piggy? He's the smartest. Why not Simon? He's the most noble. So where does that authority come from? Where do we get authority in our lives? How do we get that? That's a really good question. And then finally, why is Roger bent on hurting others? Why is anyone bent on hurting anyone? Why would somebody be like that? It's a good question to ask. All right, I hope this has been helpful. I know it's long, but there's so much going on, you understand. Have a great day, and let's keep exploring Lord of the Flies.